When I arrived here, the retardant people had already lost their minds. They were replaced with upgrades that displaced reason by hyperthought activity and microdimensional wrapping. Every human brain has tens of millions of miles of neuron pathways for information processing, and yet with that they fall into dense social environments wherein conformity to social order becomes macro-coding overriding individual reasoning. Life is a complete unity of form for itself. All life relates and supports all other life through the fact of being life rather than inanimate matter. Sure, life eats other life commonly, yet that is a process of building up the complexity and quality of life. It is when human life, in the construction of inanimate artifacts of manufacture and comfort, destroys the web of life pervasively, insensibly, through non-adaptive industrialization, that individual reason about the harm being done to life itself tends to be socially repressed. Societies such as existed on Retardant have selected extirpation of their own existence by allowing the ascent of ego to increase too far. It grows from humanity that is itself a life form in the unity of life as special intelligence. That special intelligence has the potential for good as well as for evil. In the maladaptive human society and social environment, the political domination of ego that coerces society into conformity also becomes detached from ecological reality and forces the pursuit of increased material comfort for itself without sufficient regard to the externalities that are deleterious impacts upon the health condition of the planetary ecology. On Retardant, the political push to disregard the anthropogenic harm to the global environment was strong, and yet some grew aware of the evil being done to the world and the political inability to change that was inherent in their system. Through archival research in New Aphasia, I learned of the bargain that traders of New Aphasia struck with the devil, corporate, to save their planet from swiftly approaching global disasters. There were other choices possible that failed to take. Collaborating New Aphasians sold their minds and freedom to corporate in return for a guarantee that the atmosphere would be saved and the pollution purged from the ecology and from their own precious bodily fluids. They let corporate agents in through the back door when they signed the legal agreements as survivors of the corporate battlestorm threat and holographic superpositions of use force to give corporate a 220,000-year lease on the planet for $1. Corporate forces arrived in mass and swiftly restructured the planet, removing excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and oceans, regrowing forests, and rebuilding extinct species from trace DNA. They also introduced external bloodless surgery and quark field restructuring of DNA so far as to make the outcomes and the citizens of New Aphasia healthy, mindless functioning thought unit processors, useful enough to visitors but unchallenging for corporate management. I serve a few of them that are designed for poor roles now and then. I've made it a project to restore neo-sentience in some. These guys here in the corner are my projects. Each has substantial yet limited self-awareness. Walter, the history of Retardant seems familiar. I think your research has collected the archival events of social collapse coincident with global atmosphere and ecological ruin. I believe the corporate presence isn't required for human life forms to bring inanimate and climate ecosystem ruin or temporal restoration into a world global annihilation of life or thought has been achieved under several forms of governance. Sure, Patrick, I haven't limited the conditions for political transition to those of simple ascension and power of corporate. The history of Earth provided rich analytical material for the general philosopher of history of the 20th century, Anno Domini Arnold Toynbee. Toynbee theorized about the evolution of social civilizations and noted that as of his time of writing, there had been 23 civilizations in Earth history and just one was surviving and flourishing. Some, such as the Muslim, were arrested, civilizations stagnant in their development for various reasons, that yet became megalomaniacal. Civilizations on Earth and throughout the universe that are human may have developed organically or transferred from one continent, planet, star system, or galaxy to another, yet they all process through archetypal cycles. One of the more familiar of the Toynbeean cycles of civilization is that of the ascendant civilization that grows to power, seeks to become universal over its given geographic area of power, through direct control or hegemony at least, and concurrently, while at its height of power, begins its decline. The decline of a civilization begins for reasons such as exhaustion of natural and non-renewable resources, the ascension of an underclass to power, or the inflow of reinforcing members of an internal proletariat by an external proletariat. The ruling caste or class of founders replaces or displaces itself commonly, and the modus vivendi of the civilization with it. The civilization, in achieving a universal state, may neglect its home nation or planet of origin and destroy itself in the process as the coherence of the originating parent nation is annihilated through atrophy by the transcended altered state. The challenge in the abstract for continuity of a civilization is to perpetuate growth forms without outgrowing national parameters or exhausting material supply. It must develop a continuum of ecological economics and simultaneous social liberties respecting individualism and societal security from oppression by circumstance.